Nick Duckworth says, who started the "well, there's your problem" line, which seems to be said in more than one episode, and why did the team like to say it? That was my joke. I just think that's a funny thing to say. You know, you work with a bunch of people, everyone has a thing they accrete to. I remember one of Tori Belleci's favorite jokes is, that's the second biggest inner tube I've ever seen. No matter what you were showing him, no matter how large it was, he would say, that's the second biggest. I love that joke. That's a great joke. And yeah, well, there's your problem is absolutely something I used to say at work in theater and in the film industry. It stuck with me. Somebody cut it into an episode. It became funny. I'm watching that episode with the crew, and when that line comes across, we all laughed. I get a laugh. I'm going to say the same thing again. Yeah, I want that laugh again. So yeah, that was my joke. Micah Bruce, you guys were always great about safety, and we loved that you seem to have aired the lapses, if you can even call them that. The cannonball that made it into a neighborhood, you losing an eyebrow, and a jawbreaker exploding and causing burns. Was there ever a time you guys guessed wrong and it caused a near miss? Yeah. I'm really grateful to say that almost all we have are near misses. There were, we had some broken bones and some lacerations, but nobody was seriously injured over the course of making the show from one of our experimental methodologies or from one of our locations. Every time we had a near miss, we did not shy away from it. We talked about it extensively, deeply, and thoroughly. We wheeled in all of the stakeholders. We would talk to the insurance. So, for instance, after the cannonball, the family whose house was most damaged by the cannonball and went up through their house, passing by a mother and their sleeping baby. I mean, within 6 or 8 feet of this. It's literally the worst thing I can possibly imagine. And that family, we met with them, and they were pissed, as everybody would have been. And to their incredible grace and credit, they were like, look, we figure you'll fix the house. We just want to make sure that this never happens again. And we said, we're fundamentally shifting our entire safety procedure to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And we did. And we followed that stricture, and we even increased its rigidity for the rest of our tenure on the show. The very first time we had a near miss was the very first time we blew anything up. Okay, the second time. The first time we blew anything up, I think, was the gasoline toilet episode. So the myth is that a guy is like, he sneaks into the bathroom to smoke a cigarette. Hey, kids, back in the 70s and the 80s, we used to think that if you smoked a cigarette indoors and no one saw you, that when they came in the room later, they somehow couldn't tell. We were freaking idiots about it. Everyone smoked everywhere, and it smelled awful. Yeah. But so in this myth, this guy goes into his bathroom to enjoy a secret smoke. And what he doesn't know is that his wife has cleaned out the toilet with a bunch of gasoline because she didn't have any other solvent. And he puts the cigarette out in the gasoline, and boom, it blows him off the toilet, which it didn't do. Cigarettes are a terrible way. A lit cigarette's a terrible way to ignite gasoline. Not that you should feel comfortable with a lit cigarette around gasoline. But the second time we blew anything up was tree cannon. This is a myth about a Eastern European village that had no munitions, but they had to fight an enemy. So they built a cannon out of a tree log. They drilled and bored down its center. They made a marble cannonball, and they loaded it full of gunpowder. And we did the same. We took a tree, we wrapped some bands around it to hold it together. Jamie made an incredibly beautiful spherical cannonball. We put it down that thing. We launched it. We launched it down the Alameda runway towards the bay, and we never found the cannonball. I imagine that it landed in San Francisco Bay. But that's not how you finish an episode. You have to finish the episode with something like, the end of the myth was that it didn't work for the village, that it blew up and killed a bunch of the villagers. So that the pressure created by the gunpowder behind the cannonball actually made the tree fail. So we needed to see that as an example. We had hired a pyrotechnician That is who you hire in the movies when you want something to look like it's blowing up. And they do things like they set small charges and they put gallons of gasoline in correct places and they get these beautiful fireballs that don't burn too hot and that are easy to put out. It's a wonderful magic alchemy to watch a good pyrotechnician at work. And Jamie and I had both had lots of experience working with different pyros over the years. And it's a very specialized job. It's very hard to get certified to be a pyrotechnician. It takes years and lots of apprenticeships with multiple engineers, pyro engineers. And we said to him, we want to blow this tree up down. He's like, all right. And we said, how much black powder should we put in there? And he's like, I don't know. Because he doesn't make things blow up. He makes things look like they're blowing up. He sets a small charge, which will vaporize gasoline, then a second charge, which ignites it. And that gets the fireball that is like, the White House blowing up for Independence Day. He doesn't actually blow things up. So when he said he didn't know, we said, well, how much powder could we put in here? And he said, I am licensed to handle 5 pounds of black powder at a time. And we were like, great, 5 pounds it is. Put it in there. We poured 5 pounds of black powder in there. And then we had this aluminum billet that was just ever so slightly larger. And we hammered that aluminum billet with a rubber mallet, big dead blow mallet. We hammered that aluminum billet into the end of this thing. And then we said to the pyro, where are you going to stand? And he said, I'm going to be 250 feet that way. And we're like, great, we're going to be 250 feet. We're going to be 350 feet that way. And we separated out laterally from the cannon and we blew it up. And it was sitting on a bunch of these like 8 by 8 inch or 10 by 10 inch railroad ties. The log itself weighed like 150 pounds. And every piece that it was sitting on weighed like 100 pounds. And every single piece of that cannon flew over all of our heads. Nobody was hurt. I mean, at one point, one of my producers saw something coming and there's a shot of him like just gently getting out of the way and it landing. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And this is literally season 1. This is 2003. Absolutely terrifying. The next time we had to blow something up, it was with the help of the FBI. That's how that incident changed our procedures. We went to the people who blow stuff up, not to people who make stuff look like it's blowing up. The FBI introduced us to J.D. Nelson and the incredible crew at the Alameda County Sheriff's Department out there in Dublin, Pleasanton, where said cannonball left from. And we enjoyed 13, 14, actually, with Savage Builds, 15 solid years of wonderful collaboration with the bomb techs. And we've worked with bomb techs all over the world. It's a stunning group of people to work for. Let's see here. So somebody wants to know about artifacts from the show, and I'm wanting to answer this. Let's see. Was there a minute? Safety line questions? Okay, so I'll get a live question about what artifact that Jamie would have taken as a souvenir. Jamie and I both took lots of souvenirs from the show. Many of the key objects from the narrative of the show that we really enjoyed. But for me, it was often stuff that I built, and I'll show you one in a minute. For Jamie, it was more frequently the artifacts of an explosion. And when we were doing 20,000 Foot Fall, we built this French train station roof that was about like 6 by 12 feet. And it had all this lattice work of 3/8 inch steel rod and 1/2 inch angle iron. And we blew it up with hundreds of pounds of explosives. And a piece of the 3/8 inch steel rod, so a piece of 3/8 inch steel rod, pencil is about 3/8 of an inch. That it's about this thick. So you'd be hard pressed to bend it. It flew off of this skylight that we built, and it flew away at such an incredibly fast speed that it hit a tree branch, and then each of its ends wrapped around the tree branch once full around, so that the resulting object was a piece of steel that made a pigtail around a tree branch. That is freaking mind-blowing. And this was very much a Jamie moment. Like at the end of any explosion, Jamie would be like, he'd stand up and kind of walk in concentric circles because he really wanted to find those objects. I saved objects that I found a particular affinity for. And we were doing an episode about gun myths, gunslinger myths, and we wanted to know what it felt like to get a gun shot out of your hand. And we looked at the energy created by a bullet hitting the steel of a pistol. And we were able to calculate that it was not that far off from a baseball bat hitting that pistol. So I made a pistol able to be hit with a baseball bat. And there it is. This might be my single favorite object I made over the course of the show. I love this thing. This is a solid piece of 1/2-inch aluminum, cut to fit the handles of, I believe, a Colt Peacemaker, if I remember correctly. And then it's completely monolithic. And then I painted this target on here. And remember me saying in regards to this, like, some of my favorite artists were people like Klaus Oldenburg and Jasper Johns. This absolutely feels to me like a Jasper Johns sculpture. I love this thing. This thing will hang on a wall with me for the rest of my natural life. I'm proud of it. I think it's beautiful. I think it's funny. I actually held it while Jamie hit it with a baseball bat, which hurt like hell. So I have actually a little trauma associated with it. It's a perfect object in every regard. It has a story. It has a history. I have a history with it. Yeah, I love these kind of objects. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.